Now we are going to study the topic movement along the demand curve versus shift in demand curve. Basis: change in quantity demanded, change in demand. Meaning, when the quantity demanded changes due to a change in the price, keeping other factors constant, it is known as change in quantity demanded. Here I would like to again remind you, here from other factors we mean price of the substitute commodity, price of the complementary commodity, income of the consumer, taste and preference of the consumer, etc. When demand of a commodity changes due to the change of its own price and other factors are constant, it is known as a change in quantity demanded. Change in demand: when the demand changes due to change in any factor other than the own price of the commodity, it is termed as change in demand. Here, students, the price of the commodity is not changing. Price of the commodity is constant. Change in demand is taking place due to the other factors. Then it is change in demand. Other factors are price of the substitute goods, price of the complementary goods, income of the consumer, taste and preference of the consumer, etc. Effect on demand curve: it leads to a movement along the same demand curve, either upward movement known as contraction in demand or downward movement known as expansion in demand. Contraction in demand is, for example, if the price of the commodity rises and demand of the commodity falls, then it is known as contraction in the demand. And expansion in demand is when the price of the commodity falls and demand of the commodity rises, it is known as expansion in demand. And demand curve here will move downwards in case of expansion in demand. And in case of contraction in demand, demand curve will move upward. Change in demand: it leads to a shift in demand curve, either rightward shift known as increase in demand or leftward shift known as decrease in demand. Here the price of the commodity is not changing, it remains same, and the demand is changing due to the other factors. If it is increasing, there is rightward shift in the demand curve and it will be known as increase in demand. Of when it is decreasing, it is leftward shift in the demand curve and will be known as decrease in demand. Reasons: it occurs due to increase or a decrease in the price of the given commodity. Main reason, main cause in the change in quantity demanded is the change in the price of its own commodity. Change in demand occurs due to change in other factors like change in price of substitute, change in price of complementary goods, change in income of the consumer, etc. Next is change in quantity demanded versus change in demand. This is movement along the demand curve and shift in demand curve, meaning When the quantity demanded changes due to a change in the price keeping other factors constant, it leads to a movement along the same demand curve. It is same. Here in this, the quantity demanded is changing due to the change in the price of its own commodity, and there is no change in the other factors, they are constant. And this kind of a change will lead to the movement along the same demand curve, either upward or downward. When the demand changes due to the change in other factors, then the own price of the commodity, it leads to a shift in the demand curve. Effect on demand curve. The movement along the same demand curve is either upward, known as contraction in demand, or downward, known as expansion in demand. Shift in demand curve is either rightward, known as increase in demand, or leftward, known as decrease in demand. Reason is it occurs due to an increase in or decrease in the price of the given commodity, and it occurs due to change or in other factors like change in price of substitute, change in price of complementary goods, change in income of the consumer, etc.